Today, let's talk about homeschooling with toddlers, homeschooling with babies, because it is just not easy. But honestly, I've been thinking about it, and I started homeschooling my oldest when he was, we started putting around with it when he was 4 or 5 years old, right? And now he's 11. And so I have really only homeschooled with babies because I'm about to have my 6th baby around Christmas time. And so I was talking to a dear friend, and she was picking my brain about homeschooling with toddlers, and she's like, Lana, you should totally do a video on this. So I hope that everything I share today can simply just be a springboard of ideas to help you if you are on the homeschooling journey and you have some precious little toddlers, precious little babies in tow, but you're trying to give your kids a good education at the same time. I'm going to give you all the ideas I have in this video. So hey, my name is Lana. This is Girl Teaching Me. This whole channel is primarily for new moms, to help new moms who are overstimulated, just a little burnt out, like what in the world? I didn't know it'd be so hard. But you're a homeschool mom, so you're probably not a new mom. I really still hope that this channel can be a blessing to you. I really just focus on trying to help moms step up and be more intentional to the calling that they have in motherhood, and to just lean in and step up to the challenge, right? It's a real challenge, but it is so worth it. So that's what this whole channel is about. If that resonates with you, I hope you'll stay and hit subscribe. And if you happen to be a pregnant homeschool mama, I want to tell you I have a free class that helps mamas just figure out a couple key decisions that maybe you need to consider making to change your whole birth experience. That link is down below. Okay, so let's talk about homeschooling with babies, homeschooling with toddlers. It's so tricky, right? Maybe you don't have you're breastfeeding a baby. Maybe you have a busy toddler who's like literally ripping everything out of cabinets. I feel your pain. I feel it. I have an 18-month-old. Well, she's a little older now. She's about to be 2-year-old now. And homegirl just took out a whole bag of Just Ingredients bone broth powder today, the chicken kind, and spread it all over my floor in my kitchen, which is under construction. So it's the subfloor. Needless to say, it's in every crack and crevice. And that was just one thing that happened today. So it's on par, right? This is the kind of stuff that's just going to happen. So all to say, I feel your pain that it's not a seamless process. Here's what I would say. The first thing is, and this is what I said to my friend the other day, is I think it's most helpful to fill the little kids' tanks up first with love and touch and affection. So, just for me, that looks like possibly spending time with the littles first, reading them some books, getting them going with a little activity first, and letting them know, getting them a snack, just helping them feel settled and really connected to me first. So some really sweet ways of doing that is snuggling while you read a book, lots of eye contact, and just, getting them going with something that feels meaningful for them. So for my little girl, I get her a thing of Play-Doh, and we read when we get up. She's usually the first one up. So we're doing lots of snuggles, we're doing reading, and she's feeling connected to me. And I think that helps a lot, because I think what can feel hard is when the little one's getting brushed off and pushed away because we have more important work to do. But our work with them is still really meaningful and important. I'm actually in the Restoration Home, homeschool group. It's through Peaceful Press, and she talks a lot about connection and how kids are going to act out so much less when they feel a meaningful connection with us. And so, for my little one, we just have the routine of when I lay her down for a nap, I'm reading a little book to her, we're getting snuggles. I'm not just, throwing her in her bed for a nap. She knows that's really meaningful time for her. And so it could look really, really different for you, but I try to get my bigs going on some kind of independent activity. So if there's anything that your oldest one could be doing on their own, my friend Whitney from Let Them Be Lions preschool, she's so inspirational on Instagram, but she talks about morning stations. So that's something that she sets up the night before. I'm not that savvy with it, but she has a couple of things that she's trained her older kids to run through. So if there's a tracing sheet, or it could be a Play-Doh mat, or if let's say you have your oldest is 5 or 6, it could just be anything that they could do, almost like busy work but independent, work that is still benefiting their learning, that allows you to get going with the younger one. Sometimes you can get that younger one going on something. I like to do like the little water books where they're just like painting with water or something that they can't make too big of a mess with. Like I said, I have a video that teaches you how to make like homemade Play-Doh. That's been a great thing to do. And for the ages of my kids, I have 11, 9, 7, almost 5, and almost 2. And so that 5-year-old, 2-year-old combo, I also just loop that 5-year-old into whatever the 7-year-old's doing. And we do a lot of stuff together. So another idea is also just grouping your kids for as much as you can together. I group my 11 and my 9-year-old together for a lot of stuff, and my 7 and my 5-year-old together. And then we do all of our reading together, like our reading out loud time together. So just to give you a vibe of my day flow, because I think it'll give you some perspective, and then I'm going to kind of share what is the little one doing during that time, and that might help you get a grasp. So I go walk. I'll back it up even further. I try to get up around 5, which I know is super early, but I'm not postpartum at this point, so don't compare if you just had a baby. But I'm about 5 months pregnant. So I get up at 5, I have my quiet time, and I'm journaling. Journaling is so good for my mental health. And then I do a little bit of girl teach me work. So that's when I write, that's when I do some video stuff. And then I go out for my walk. I might lift a little bit of weights at the house. And then we do Bible time. We jump right into Bible time. We read some of the word. We do a worship song. We pray. And while I'm on that walk, my husband is kind of getting them going on their chores. But everybody kind of knows what their chores are. So we're getting some house upkeep going. And I usually push the baby in a stroller during that walk, and the 5-year-old. Those two typically come with me. If a big kid gets their chores done, they can come. Hang with me because we're going to talk about what the toddlers and the babies can do. But then I go in from 8:30 to 10:30. I try to do seat work. And I have a list that the boys, it kind of changes day to day, but it's independent stuff they can do. Okay, so I get them going. They have little timers. They have tasks they can do. And they're reading. So that helps a ton. Until you have a reader, it's sometimes hard, but you can be creative about it. It could even just be coloring sheets or things like that. Color by number. There's lots of things you can do and look up on Pinterest, like independent activities for, you could say, the grade or the age. Have like a little morning basket of that stuff that they just dive into. And then during that time, just spending time with the little. So for me, I'm including my almost 2-year-old in whatever I'm doing. If there's a sheet, I print it out for her. I have crayons that are just for her size, little crayons that fit in her hands. She'll scribble. She wants to be included. Now, not if it's a baby that doesn't want to be included, just having an activity at your feet. They have all kinds of like little busy books and these bins with like sand, like sensory bins. They could be at your feet doing that, but really just nurturing that relationship with the little one or baby wearing during that time, and just knocking out that seat work in the morning when your energy is fresh. I work with the 5 and the 7-year-old, and we do as much as we can together, and I kind of fill their cup and give them some good attention, and then they go play for a little while, and then I do, a little bit of intentional work with my big boys and kind of check their work and maybe do just a little bit of intentional phonics or something like that. And then we go outside. I think this is also a secret sauce. We go outside for 30 minutes to 45 minutes and they play. And we're all outside, including myself. I'm going outside even though there's a million things I could be doing or catching up on. I choose to go outside too. That's when I'll also spend some time with the littles, pushing them on the swing, jumping on the trampoline. I'll do some yard work too, but they're getting that energy out. Then we come inside and I fix a snack, even though it's a little bit close to lunch, because it keeps their hands busy and it gives a little something to do to keep them busy while I'm reading out loud. So that's when we'll do our Bible memory. That's when we'll read any storybooks, and that's when we'll read our chapter books. And the little is clucking around. And when my little 2-year-old is just done at that point, that's when we wrap it up. We just wrap it up for the day. I'm not going to push past a bunch of crying and stuff like that. And I want to pause right here in the middle of the video. Tell me how you keep your toddler and baby busy. Maybe you clicked on this video to get new ideas, but you have a couple of ideas that are so worth sharing. Drop them down in the comments. Bless another mom who stopped drops by, she's going to read the comments. So leave your best ideas. I love learning from you guys all the time. Another thing that can be really helpful is if you're nursing a baby is to really use Audible. I know you really want to read out loud, but it can be helpful just to have your hands back and having somebody else read. So if you have a book that you're going to be reading a lot, it might be worth just investing in Audible so that you can have your hands and you can be loving on some littles instead of holding a book. So that's another idea. But some really intentional little things that we do, I'm thinking about some activities. I'm thinking about even a 3-year-old. Now, a 3-year-old to 4-year-old who's not going to put stuff in their mouth. Let's talk about them. They could be stringing beads. They can be doing pattern blocks. They can do Play-Doh mats. There's all kinds of Play-Doh mats. You can slip them into like a sleeve and they can form the Play-Doh in that shape. That is something else they can do to stay busy. My 4-year-old built a tent today while I was reading All of a Kind Family, and she just was in her little tent. Sometimes they'll play Barbies at my feet. I don't really mind if hands are busy as long as their minds are listening and their minds are open. That doesn't really bother me so much. I love the Melissa and Doug, like just natural wooden blocks. Those are so great, but anything that's just kind of quiet and not too loud and too distracting. But as much as I can have the baby snuggling on me or just giving some touch and affection, I think if we fill up their cup first, make sure they have a little snack or something like that. If they're really just going crazy, sometimes we can even, if you have a fenced in backyard, go lay a picnic blanket outside. We can take the schoolwork outside and just let a little cluck around out there with a water table. It's a great idea as well. Sometimes I'll run a little water in the sink. My 2-year-old pulls up to the sink and she plays in the sink. There's so much that can be done in just 10 to 15 minutes increments of time, even less, just little bits of time. I think what's really important is that we don't get too discouraged or have too high expectations that we can't accomplish really quality homeschool because we have a toddler. Also, I think just putting cabinet locks on our cabinets, that's just one less thing we have to worry about. Yes, it's just for a season. Sure, you could teach them obedience, but also, just making sure that some things are out of reach. I actually moved a lot of my homeschool stuff out of reach for a baby and moved it to a closet, moved it up high because I got tired of stuff just getting ripped out. I think sometimes before we can get out of a hole, we have to stop digging and we have to think about how we can build a ladder and just getting a bit more strategic. I love the verse in Colossians 4, I think it's 4:17, and it says, "Pay attention to the ministry you have received in the Lord so that you can accomplish it." Homeschooling is 100% a very, very, very important ministry, but we have to pay attention if we're going to accomplish it. And every season is going to have new challenges. So I think sometimes we can buy into the lie that quality homeschool will happen when we don't have a baby, when we don't have a toddler. And the truth is, this is the season that we're in and we have to make it as good as we possibly can. So how can we get creative and build a ladder? How can we make a couple batches of Play-Doh? How can we invest in a couple of different tools? We don't have to be able to buy a bunch of stuff. We just maybe need to change the schedule up, or we need to change the location of the homes of what we're doing. I do my most meaningful work with the boys, my big boys, truthfully, after nap time. The independent stuff they do in the morning, it's meaningful. Outside time's meaningful. Read aloud time is meaningful. But I'm talking about like sitting down and working on grammar and phonics and spelling and maybe some intricacies with math that are a little hard for them. I'm going to save that till 2 o'clock when I still know my baby is napping. I'm going to work with that time because I know I'm going to be able to sit down and have a bit more focus with them. And so sometimes I think we're working against ourselves a little bit and maybe we're trying to do too much. I think another thing that can really, really help is to not be running all over the place. Having lots of margin, limiting our schedules really blesses a toddler and a baby to be more regulated and helps us to be more regulated. Starting dinner after breakfast, just getting something going, thawing meat, something like that. That's going to help go a long way with toddlers and babies because by the end of the day, we're going to be smoked, right? We're going to be tired. So just getting stuff done kind of early. But baby wearing is also just so helpful. We can stand at the kitchen counter. We can do homeschool anywhere, right? Stand at the kitchen counter with a baby in a baby wrap and sit beside a kid who is trying to understand some kind of phonics rule. And we can spend 10 minutes with that child and even just 10 minutes day day after day after day, that can be really, really powerful. But also to say, if you're in like a season where you have a newborn, just grace upon grace. I have read countless stories of homeschool moms where they didn't get quality homeschool really done for months on end, sometimes a year. And kids, as long as they feel really connected to us, we're getting outside, we're reading good books together. Life is an education. I'm not dismissing the need to read and to do math. I just am saying that we are doing enough if we are still being intentional. We are giving our best. We're staying, like I said, connected. We're reading the word to our kids. So much of character is not going to be able to be taught with AI. Who our kids are, that's the real ministry in education, right? Is that they can know more about the Lord, that they can have good character. All the other stuff really can be learned, right? And so just to give ourselves some perspective that if we're doing the hard character training and we're being intentional, that it's still going a long way, and our kids are gaining a lot from our homeschool. So to not be so hard on ourselves. I know I definitely have been hard on myself in the past, and maybe sometimes I've been too lax on myself also, but really and truly, I am really proud of what my kids are who they're becoming and what they're accomplishing. And I know that that's all the Lord's credit, but I see a little bit of fruit of the labor, and I know that it's just the work that we're not going to see for a long time out. So just to continue to be faithful and to not grow weary in doing good. So I hope I've provided you with lots of good ideas. I mean, really and truly, we can wash the mud out. We can wash the washable markers out. If we can the sky's the limits on creativity of what your toddler and baby can be doing. Fill their cup first. Plan some time that your kids can get some independent work done. And then plan the time later when the little kids are resting to really buckle down and get some things done where they have your full attention and focus on filling your big kids' cup. So maybe making that time extra special, making them a cup of tea, a little snack that you guys just share so that the bigs can feel loved on and they can feel special too. I have so many videos on this channel to help homeschool moms, so I hope you'll go check those out. There's a whole playlist. You can just binge while you do some laundry or you do some dishes later. And I know that you'll just glean some little ideas that you can take and include in your homeschool. All of our homeschools are so different. There's not one size fits all, but I hope you can get some good ideas. Hope you'll stay and hit subscribe. Tell me your best tips down below on how you keep a toddler and baby busy. Maybe you picked up some ideas. Leave some of your ideas, because there are so many moms in the comments who would love to glean your wisdom. And I'll see you again in the next video.
It's so unnecessary dwelling about the past, 'cause I know that God is good. He led me to where I'm at. Sometimes I feel like giving up, you're giving in, but everything happens for a reason. It won't always be blue skies ahead. Sometimes you might need a helping hand, just like I am. Sharpens iron, making me stronger, calling me higher. When we come together, just like iron. Sharpens iron, making us stronger, calling us higher. When we're helping each other, we're growing together.